Last little thing I wanted to talk about before we start taking questions. The other trend that we're seeing as of late, just in the last couple of weeks, a lot of bicycles taken out of open garages and carports. We've got some sort of bike crew rolling through here that just drives around looking for open garages or walks around looking for open garages, and they're taking the bicycles. So we do register bikes. If you don't have the serial make, model, and serial number of your bike kept somewhere, go home and do it, because I will tell you, the officers come across bicycles abandoned, or we arrest people on bicycles, and we're like, you don't own this bike. This is a $500 bike. We will register your bike at the police department. We do those at various times, so that if it gets stolen, or if we find one, we look through our registry to see who we can return it to. Because if we can prove that bike is stolen and we find somebody with it, we can arrest them at that point, and we can at least get them back. Because I remember at the old police department before it was torn down, the evidence custodian had literally a bicycle graveyard upstairs, and you would just go in there and look at that room, and there were hundreds of bicycles that belonged to everyone, but they just weren't returned because nobody had their serial number. Keep the serial numbers on your computers and your phones and everything at your house too. If you've got any like preteen, teen kids that need a project, give them a pad and a pen and tell them to find a treasure hunt around the house. Make, model, serial number of everything in the house that has one. Televisions, laptops, because I will tell you, with this series of burglaries in the South Side early part of the summer, DeKalb County was serving search warrants on places where they found these kids coming and going from, and they were recovering TVs, laptops, guns. They were recovering all these items. If these serial numbers don't come back on the system when we run them, we can't charge them with it. And then they just sit in property until they are eventually destroyed, if they're a weapon, or auctioned off. And so that is one more victim who we could have returned the property if we had this, they'd been able to report their serial number, and we could have charged the kid for being in possession of that. We hate going into places, and we do this all the time when we stumble across things, or we're doing drug search warrants, because people trade stolen stuff to get other stuff, and they'll literally have a room of electronics, and we sit there and start rolling through the numbers, and nobody has their serial number. Just like when I walk into the pawn shop and I see all that stuff, and I know most of this is stolen, but if you have your serial number, it helps us track back, and we can charge people with it. So. Are we going to start taking questions? All right. Hold on 1 second. We're going to start taking questions at this time. Do you have anything else you want me to cover? Okay. All right. You're talking about the signs that you put out in your yard that say slow down, and people are damaging those. Okay. That is damage to property. It's not traceable for us. The best you can do at that point is if everybody's looking out to see who's going through. The only way we're going to be able to prove somebody's doing it is if somebody sees them doing it and we catch them, or somebody sees them doing it and knows who they are. But if you are having property damaged on your property, you can call and file a report, because that's one thing that we can track and trace, which reminds me of something. I saw something on the blog recently where people were saying, well, my bikes were taken, but I don't want to report it because nothing's going to happen. It's never going to get returned. That is how we know what's going on. And I figured out that while we know that we've had 6 or 7 bikes taken in the last couple of weeks, I bet you we have more based on what comments are floating on the blogs. That's a difference, because if we're looking at trends and we're trying to do targeted patrols, and we're sending unmarked cars out with officers in plain clothes, and I don't really have an accurate view of what's happening, it is not a bother. That is what we are here for. I don't care how trivial you think it is. If people are stealing things off your property, please report it, because that's how we know what's going on, and we can try to do something about it. And then we also find random things sometimes, and it just gets stuck in evidence, and we might have been able to find an owner. So.